Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. In the fourth round, Igokea managed to win for the first time in the season as Krka suffered their first defeat. Verbica Stefanov debuted as MZT's coach in the match against Solnok. Olimpia and Partizan crossed swords in the Stožice arena. Crvena Zvezda wanted to continue their winning streak after that fine EuroLeague win against Galatasaray, and Cibona was desperate for that elusive first win as they took on their Croatian rival Zadar. At the end of the show, of course, we will have the best 5 actions of the round. First the news, the first coach of the season to lose his job is the most successful Slovenian coach of all time, Zmago Sagadin, who had won only one game at the helm of the MZT, that against Zadar, while he lost both away games against Mega Vizura and Budućnost. He is replaced by a former Macedonian international, Verbica Stefanov, for whom it is the first coaching job. Mega Vizura brings in a Serbian international, Marko Kešelj. The 26-year-old, former of Girona, Köln, Olympiacos, Valencia, Le Mans and Asvel, has an open contract and will be allowed to leave the club in case of a better offer. And also Milan Marčvan returns to Partizan. He won the league with the black and white in 2011 and has since then played for Galatasaray of Istanbul. He was also a member of the Serbian national team who had won silver at the Euros 2009 in Poland. And Damir Markota returns to Cibona after featuring for various clubs over Europe and the NBA. He was also a member of the Croatian squad at this year's World Cup in Spain. And we start our review in Laktashi, where Igokea was chasing their first win of the season against a still undefeated Krka. The home team was forced to play without the guidance of their coach Vlada Jovanovic. Jonathan Jones was the first one to score, and at the other side for Krka it was Jasmin Hukic. Jones and Jeremic were creating the biggest problems for the Slovenian champion as they were behind the first significant lead from Igokea of 11-4. Then it was time for the league's best scorer, Malcolm Armstead, to score 5 of his 14 points altogether, which is his least tally this year, to make it 15-11. The result of the first quarter of 18-13 was set by Alexis Van Mine. At the beginning of the second period, Nikola Dragovic scored for 3 to put Igokea 8 points in front, but soon Krka was back in the game as Van Mine closed the gap to just a point after scoring twice in a row. After that, Branko Jorovic, his first points to make it 28-24. The visitors were poor in shooting from distance, but were still able to close to half in front as Chris Booker was the last to score in it. It was 34-32. Jonathan Jones was quick to fire 2 3-pointers at the start of the third period to make it 40-36 to Igokea. Then Chris Booker managed to close the gap to just a point. But then Krka couldn't score for more than 4 minutes, which the home team readily took advantage of by scoring 9 unanswered points to take a double-digit lead for the first time in the game when it was 51-41. Krka's game was plagued with turnovers as they managed to only score 7 points in the third quarter. The visitors had some hope to catch up with the hosts when Booker finally managed to score from distance, but right after that they eased off again, and when Jones scored and was fouled in the process, it meant the lead had grown again to 12 points. 2 minutes before time, the bar was raised to 14 points and all doubts about the winner of the match were cast away. The last action of the game was the best one in it, when Dragovic said the end result of the game of 66-53. In the end, Krka scored 26 points under this year's average and was only 31% successful from the field. In the new Janez Sandaski Hall in Skopje, MZT played host to Solnok for the first time under the helm of their new coach Verbica Stefano, who took charge after Zmago Sagarin became the first coaching victim of the season. Alexander Cvitkovic was the first one to score, after which Stefan Sinovic at the other end replied. The home team needed 5 attempts for 3 to finally score one, and it had put them into a 9-6 lead, courtesy of Uroš Lučić. The last act of the first quarter was this alley-oop from Solnok, and with it the result of the first 10 minutes was set through Ákos Keller when he made it 11-10. At the start of the second one, the Hungarians took the lead of 14-11 through Strahina Milosevic after a 6-0 run. When a bit later they managed to score 7 points in a row, they took the lead of 6 points when Sinovic was successful, but the home team was quick to reply with a run of 8 consecutive points of their own, as Alexander Cvitkovic, rounding up that run as MZT retook their lead. It was 29-28 at the half, with Kirill Nikolovsky the last one to score in it. Alexander Cvitkovic started the second half well, scoring 5 of MZT's 7 points, and the Macedonians were in front by 37-32. Then after a long series of free throws at both ends, Ivan Marinkovic made sure MZT had opened up a lead of 8 points. But then Sinovic managed to score almost from the half line in the last second of the third period, which ended with MZT in front by 47-42. The home team started well in the last period, as Nenad Djurcevic scored 5 points in a row to give his team a double-digit lead for the first time in the match when it was 52-42. A bit later, MZT was already 19 points to the good when Jordan Demant was successful with the home team securing a partial of 11-2, little over 5 minutes before time. Strahina Milosevic then scored the next 4 points to make it 70-55. But the Macedonians had no trouble in protecting the lead till the end of the game, which ended with 74-58. A good win for MZT and their new coach, Verbica Stefano. 4,000 people turned up in the Stožice arena to see the duel of the teams fresh from their opening match of the Euro Cup, Olimpija and Partizan. Sadly, we couldn't see the Muric brothers fight it out on the court, as Dino was forced to miss the match through injury, and at the other end the visitors couldn't rely on their new reinforcement Milan Mačvan, as the game came too soon for him to attend. Mirza Begic opened the scoring in this game. Eventually he had registered as many as 6 blocks, which was only 1 shy of the league record. Edo Muric was the first one to score for Partizan. Olimpija was quick to establish a lead of 6 points as they scored 6 in a row. It was 22-18 after the first 10 minutes when Rupnik found Omic nicely. When the hosts scored their 4th three-pointer from only 6 attempts, with Marinelli managing that for the first time in the season, they forced Duško Vujošević to take an early timeout. It didn't have much effect though, as Olimpija through Hrovat again opened up a 6-point lead. And then when Hristo Nikolov scored his 3rd three-pointer from his 3rd attempt, Olimpija reached their first double-digit lead of the game, and that was already Olimpija's 8th three-pointer from only 12 attempts. And when Sasu Salin beat the buzzer of the first half, the home team secured a 12-point lead for the first time in the game, 45-33 after the first 20 minutes. Olimpija then opened the second half well, scoring the first 4 points, and quickly the lead had grown to 16 when Kanacevic managed to open his account. It took more than 4 minutes for Partizan to get going in the third period, with Muric and Gagic combining to finally break the deadlock. But Olimpija was soon setting the bar even higher, as Hrovat with his 3 opening up an 18-point lead. 62-45 was the result after 3 quarters of play. Blaž Markovic had a record 19-point tally in the end. He opened the last quarter with 3 successive baskets, and the home team was sailing to victory with now 23-point margin. And he was also responsible for the most bizarre basket you will ever have seen in a basketball game, and that really got the crowd going. And it was not enough because Marinovic followed up with an amazing 3 to open up a 25-point lead. And this is this basket, which came directly after that one from Markovic. 3 minutes before the end, there was even time for Vasilije Vučetić to get his first playing minutes of the season, and he really took his chance by immediately scoring for the first time in the ABA League. It finished 87-58, with Olimpija scoring as many as 13 three-pointers from only 24 attempts and had as many as 14 assists more than their opponent, who had to settle for a third defeat of the season. The newcomer to the league, Levski from Sofia, hosted one of the favorites of the competition, Budućnost, with the hosts with only 1 win to their name thus far, while the Montenegrins were still only 3 unbeaten teams of the league. It was they who opened the scoring in this game through Suat Šehović. Right after that, Dimitrov scored for the first and only time in the match. Bojan Subotic was again the game's best scorer with 18 points. Here he was, finishing a run of 7 successive points to give Budućnost the lead of 17-13. When Justin Reynolds scored, it was already +8 for the visitors, but the last 5 points of the quarter were scored by Verbano, as he managed to close the gap to 2 points before the end of the first period. The visitors opened the second one with 8 consecutive points to reach a double-digit lead for the first time in the game, when Reynolds was successful all 3 times from the free throw line. Dimitar Angelo was the home's best individual in this first half. He managed to cut the deficit to 8, but the Montenegrins were soon in front by 14 when Alexander Chapin scored for his first points of the game. Budućnost won the half by 53-39 when Reynolds scored 3 from his 14 altogether, right at the buzzer. When Omar Cook rounded up a run of 7 successive points for Budućnost at the start of the third period, they were already in front by 20 points. And that was also the margin when Pupovic scored 4 in a row a bit later, and also come the end of the third quarter, which ended with 79-59 for Budućnost. That margin would get even bigger to 24 points when Vladimir Dašić managed to score and draw a foul as well, and it was clear that Levski would not win in front of their own crowd for the second time running. That they did soften the blow a little bit towards the end, as first Stojan Đurovski scored 5 in a row, and then Pupovic did the same when he made it 89-73. But it was to no avail, as the visitors secured their 4th successive win of the season a very long time ago. It finished 92-75, a 3rd defeat of the season for Levski, and a first one at home. Cedevita was still forced to play without their captain Rokolini Ukic and without Marko Tomas as well when it hosted Metalac from Valjevo, still winless prior to this encounter and still without a home game as well due to their hall's reconstruction. It was a strong start for Cedevita, who scored the first 8 points of the game. And after almost 4 minutes, Nikola Otašević was finally able to break the deadlock. Nikola Jevtovic then played well, making sure the home team wouldn't run away too far, as he scored 6 points in that period, making it 14-10. The visitors even managed to break into the lead when George Majstorovic scored to make it 18-17, and that was also the result after the first 10 minutes. Cedevita was soon in front again at the start of the second period when Luka Babic first stole the ball and then dunked nicely to give his team a 7-point lead. But Metalac was persistent, and when Mirko Ljubicic scored, they were only trailing by 3. Cedevita's reply to increasing pressure from the visitors with 2 consecutive three-pointers, as Pilepic made sure his team reached the highest lead thus far of 9 points. Still, the guests were able to finish the half on a high, securing the result of 42-37 after the first 2 quarters. Cedevita again opened the period well, as Nemanja Gordic made sure they restored that 9-point lead quickly. Still, Metalac wouldn't just roll over, as Nemanja Todorovic scored twice in a row to cut his team's deficit to 6. After that, when both Telaš brothers managed to score, Cedevita would reach a 10-point lead for the first time in the game, but again, it would not last for long, as Metalac managed to halve the deficit come the end of the third period, which ended with 59-54. Nikola Jeftovic was unstoppable that night, as he reached a record 21 points in the ABA League. At the start of the last quarter, he closed the gap to just 3 points, but it turned out that was as close as Metalac would get in Zagreb, as Miro Bilan proved to be too much for the visiting defense. He finished the game on 16 points and 11 rebounds. Soon Ante Delaš was rounding up a 12-3 partial for the home team, as he made it 76-62, and the game was of course decided. It finished with 79-66, with Cedevita outjumping their opponent by 43 rebounds to just 21 for their second win of the season, while Metalac remains without one after 4 rounds. Crvena Zvezda was forced to play in the FMP Železnik Hall, as they couldn't perform in Pionir, but still 2,500 people turned up to see their team host Mega Vizura, for whom Marko Kišl had a chance to play against his former club. This was also a replay of the last year's cup final. Nikola Kalinic was the first one to score for the home team, and at the other end it was Aleksandar Marelja. The visitors with a good start, as they took the lead of 14-8 when Marko Kišl managed to get his first points for his new club under his belt. Mega was soon in front by 8 points when Nikola Jokic scored for 3 for the first time in the game. That was followed by Jaka Blažic's 4 points in a row as he came into play, and Crvena Zvezda closed the gap to 4 points. Still, the guests were in front after the first 10 minutes. It was 29-26. But the hosts opened the second period well with a 9-1 partial, and after Williams' points, they were quickly back in front by 35-30. Then Mega Vizura scored 8 points in a row to get itself back into the lead of 40-38 when Jokic scored 2 of his 17 altogether. But then Marcus Williams started a run of 11-2 for Crvena Zvezda, finished by Boban Marjanovic, and Zvezda was back in the lead. It was 49-42, and then 51-44 come the end of the first half. Mega would again come within just 3 points when Marelja scored 2 of his 12 altogether. And then Stefan Jovic made good use of Blažic's pass to make it 59-52. A bit later, Zvezda was in front by 8 points when Nikola Kalinic drove through successfully. The home team reached a double-digit lead for the first time in the match when their young captain Luka Mitrovic scored for 3. 68-61 before the start of its last 10 minutes when Dusan Chantekin beat the buzzer. Luka Mitrovic was shining at the start of the last period, scoring the first 5 points, and Crvena Zvezda was in front by 12. Nikola Tijanic managed to close the gap to 8 points, but Mitrovic was soon at it again, scoring another 5 consecutive points in his record-breaking performance, in which he scored 27 points and added 7 rebounds as he put it to 78-67. Nenad Miljanovic was doing his best for the visitors not to lose faith, as he made it 81-71, but that was followed by Marjanovic's 9 consecutive points to set up a lead of 90-75, which was of course a killer blow for the team from Sremska Mitrovica. It finished 93-77, a second defeat of the season for Mega Vizura, as Crvena Zvezda remains unbeaten and top of the table. Incredibly, the defending champion Cibona was still winless prior to the Croatian derby with Zadar, for which 1,500 people turned up in the Dražen Petrović arena. Marko Jagodić-Kuriđa opened the scoring, and at the other end it was Domagoj Bubalo. Jagodić-Kuriđa was particularly efficient at the start of the match, as he scored 7 points to give Cibona the lead of 13-12. But it was the visitors who finished ahead after the first 10 minutes. It was 18-16. After 3 failed attempts, Siriščević was finally able to score for 3 for Cibona when he made it 21-18, but then Florence scored twice in a row from far, and the half ended with Zadar in front by 40-35, with Domagoj Bošnjak scoring for 3. Jure Lalić was Cibona's best scorer eventually with 18 points. He was also the first one to score in the third period to close the gap to just 3 points. But the Dalmatians were soon 6 points to the good, as Henrik Širko scored 3 times in a row. Then Filip Kraljević played well in the next 4 minutes, scoring 7 from Zadar's 14 altogether in that period. The visitors were also in front come the end of the third quarter. It was 61-56. At the start of the last period, Zadar was quick to establish their highest lead thus far of 8 points, courtesy of Lovre Basic. But then Cibona replied with 6 consecutive points of their own, as Blasingame closed the gap to just 2 with a 3. Still, Henrik Širko was playing really well, scored again for 3, and after that Zadar held the lead of 71-64. But that was followed by Cibona's run of 10 unanswered points, as they took the lead through Damir Markota by 74-71. Didn't last long though, as James Florence quickly gave the visitors the lead back, as he made it 76-74. It was close towards the end. Jagodić-Kuriđa was really successful from the free throw line, and then a basket with a foul, and Cibona was in front by 77-76. He then missed the additional free throw, but Zadar couldn't manage to score in the last offense, and Cibona was finally able to breathe a sigh of relief after that first win of the season. So finally, a first win for Igokea, as they became the first team to beat Krka. No problems for MZT, Olimpija and Budućnost, while there were extra effort required from Cedevita to beat Metalac. The same goes for Crvena Zvezda for their win over Mega Vizura. Cibona grabbing that elusive first win. No changes at the top, as Crvena Zvezda continues to occupy it, with Budućnost the only other remaining unbeaten team of the league. Both Slovenian representatives with 3 wins each. Then it gets a little crowded, as Metalac now remains the only team without a win this season so far. The most valuable player of the 4th round is Crvena Zvezda's captain Luka Mitrovic. In the 32 minutes he played against Mega Vizura, he managed 27 points with only 1 missed shot from the field. He also added 7 rebounds, 2 assists and 2 steals to his tally, which makes him our MVP of the round. And now for the best 5 actions of the round. We start at number 5. This is a real hard dunking from Ákos Keller from Szolnok. At number 4, we also have a dunk, Nikola Dragovic, after a very nice assist. At number 3, we have this block from Mirza Begic. He managed 6 in this game alone, which was quite a defensive performance from a former EuroLeague center. Quite amazing performance from Olympia's big guy. At number 2, we have this amazing 3 from Stefan Sinovic, beating the buzzer of the third period. And there will be no doubt about number 1. It is this amazing shot from Blaž Markovic, which of course ended up at many of TV stations as play of the day, and rightly so, because this will not be seen anytime soon. And the fifth round kicks off in Hungary with a match between Szolnok and Levski. 2 more games on Saturday, 3 more then on Sunday, and the last game of the round was scheduled on Monday in Zagreb, where Cedevita will host Igor. And that's all for today. Until next time, it's bye-bye from us.